And I am back. I apologize if you are getting sick of my voice. It's the only one I have, so I have to use it. So again, my name is Jennifer Lamberts. My email is down below. If you have any questions, definitely get in touch with me. So at this point in the unit, you are likely running out of time, and you've probably gotten an email from Bev, and she's telling you that your science kit is going to be picked up next week. Hopefully you've done a little bit more planning, so you have a bit more time. But good news is investigation 6 through 8 can be condensed. That said, there are really some key concepts that need to be covered. So the first part of investigation 6 must be covered. This is all about forces, and we'll go a little bit more in detail in that in the next slide. Investigation 7, part 1, understanding the idea that there is acceleration due to gravity. Students should get that the acceleration due to gravity is about 10 meters per second squared. And this is where you can also hone in on the standard that the difference between mass and weight. You can talk about this in this investigation. And then finally, this car crash video, I've talked about it before. It's not introduced in your teacher guide until investigation 8. But it has some really great concepts, and you could even do it after you do investigation 6, but it's definitely something that the students need to watch. So investigation 6, force. If you had a ton of time, which you probably don't, it would take you about a week and a half to do this completely. But you need to make sure you cover the concepts in part 1. When I've had time, I've done some of the investigations, some of the exercise activities, but sometimes I've also just covered the main ideas. And then I had the students do the lab notebook 68 and 69. So you see the standards that you're covering here, PS 11 and PS 12. So PS 12, you can actually cover this by doing lab notebook pages 68 and 69. So let me just give you a preview of what it looks like. So here we have Willie's class found that the cart will move when pushed with 50 newtons of force. Okay, so the idea of that is that Willie has overtaken the force of friction. So he's pushing with more force than the table is pushing back on him, and that's why the cart was able to move. Now, when Willie pushed the cart with only 10 newtons of force, the cart didn't move because the amount he was pushing was not enough to overcome the frictional force of the cart. Now, here in 2, you have Willie and Jenny. They're pushing together and the cart's not moving. That's because their net change is 0 because they're pushing with equal but opposite force. Now, here, kind of same idea. There is no movement, so there's no net force, and therefore if Biff is pushing this way with 400 newtons, Willie's pushing this way with 400 newtons. And it just goes on. It has a couple of different scenarios. The kids actually like these stick figures. So this is a great unit. This is a great lab sheet to do. So even if you don't have time to do the whole part 1 investigation, I would recommend you do this sheet. And this sheet actually isn't until investigation 3, but I've done it at the beginning. You also need to make sure that you have the students do the response sheet for force in this investigation. This is also, I didn't pull it up, but this is a nice way for them to practice, their claim, evidence, and reasoning writing as well. Moving on to investigation 7, gravity. So here you have a close reading lesson. So this is a really good way to connect to the Common Core literacy standards. So there's a close reading lesson. Again, if you didn't see it in the overview, you can go to the bpsscienceweebly.com and go into science and literacy. And you're going to go to close reading resources. And you will see that in grade 7, how to get and hold onto the moon, it's right here. And the lesson plan is already there. Everything's there. You just need to print it out and go through it. The questions are there. And then if you have time, there's this video about Galileo. I honestly haven't watched it in the last few years because I've used it when I've had a sub, when I've been out. The students like it. It's long. It's 60 minutes. So it's not something that is essential, but if you have the time, you can show it. The main idea here is that the acceleration produced by the force of gravity is about 10 meters per second squared, and that gravity is a universal force, and Galileo discovered the acceleration due to gravity. So you want to make sure that you're touching on these standards, but you don't, again, need to go through the whole investigation. And then finally, investigation 8, again, if you're able to do it completely, it would take you about a week and a half. I honestly haven't gotten to this in a long time, but I cover the ideas. So PS11, so talking about inertia and momentum, it's really nicely covered in this car crash video. It's only 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. I have the students watch the first 10 minutes. There's a worksheet, a question sheet. I actually add some questions to it. I have them watch it for the first 10 minutes. They answer as many questions as they can independently, and then they talk in their group, and then we watch the second. They do the same. Then we watch the video all over again to see if we can get some more answers to the questions. But the kids love it. The guy who's talking in it, who's narrating it, is a bit dorky. Throw that out there and the kids will get over it. How much oomph? This is, again, one of these really dense readings. But in this case, I have used parts of this. How much oomph? I haven't assigned it as a whole homework. But it does a really nice job supplementing or complementing, the car crash video. So all the concepts that are talked about in the car crash video, it's also in this how much oomph. And then finally, if you have time, I highly recommend you do this egg drop, or in the Force in Motion kit, they have you do an egg drop, a bean brains, and they have those plastic eggs that you get at Easter, and they fill them with beans, and the students have to design a carrier to limit the impact when it hits the ground. This is something that you could do even after you turn in your kit. It could be like a culminating activity. So your janitor might not be super impressed if you use real eggs, but put down plastic bags. You can make it somewhat clean, and it's awesome. The students love it. And this is a really good way for them to show you everything that they learned. So if you have the time, I recommend doing that. That is all I have for today and for these trainings. Please email me with any questions. I realize that this is a brief overview, but I encourage you to use your teacher guide and the online resources and your colleagues, because this is a good unit. It's hard. The students find it very difficult. So you need to go slow. You need to give them a lot of extra practice, but ultimately it's a good unit. So good luck. Have an awesome year. And I hope to run into many of you soon. Thank you.